This is Dave here from Opposing the Matrix and also from delusionresistance.org. And I've been reading something that's been kind of interesting lately. And you know what? You got to take this stuff with a grain of salt because if you believe everything that's on the internet, well, you're you're gonna go mashugana. Um, and you'll be full of fright and fear and everything else. Um, but I'm going to read to you or show you actually, because this is video. I'm going to show you a couple of or three websites that I've been looking at, and one of them is pseudoscientific, another one is New Age, and the other one is kind of a debunking one. So, I like to show everything. So, I read on the news the other day that there was a closure of at least one solar observatory, and that being down on Sacramento Peak down in the New Mexico mountains. And and this article is dated September 13th, 2018, so it's 4 days old because it is very early in the morning, about 20 after 1 in the morning on the 17th. I keep late hours. So anyway, it says six more solar observatories closed, and this could be the reason. Could be. Okay. Follow up on our article, National Solar Observatory USPS office in Sunspot, New Mexico evacuated and shut down for safety reasons. Yeah, we'll get into the safety reasons things in a minute. Anyway, um, just check something. Okay, yeah, my microphone is on, so we're recording. Um, I just like to make sure of these things because this is kind of new to me, this recording stuff on video. Anyway, it says the National Solar Observatory in Sunspot, New Mexico, and nearby United States Postal Service office were evacuated and shut down for security reasons on September 9th, 2018, observatory officials said, but they refused to tell us the reason for the sudden shutdown. Now, let's look at these pictures real quick, okay? If you look here, that's obviously the sun, okay? And they're going to mention this little object right here. Looks like maybe a very large old-fashioned garbage can in outer space. It looks cylindrical to me. They're saying it looks like a door, but it looks cylindrical to me. And then over here you have something that looks like the top end of a Hanabu flying saucer from Nazi Germany. Interesting. Um, anyway, let's continue. Then NASA tries to explain what happened on September 9th, 2018 by issuing a statement that there were two lunar transits passing in front of the sun. Here's the next explanation. Lunar transit or huge disc-shaped UFO? Question mark. On September 9, 2018, NASA Solar Dynamics Observatory (SDO) saw the lunar transits as the moon passed in front of the sun. A transit happens when a celestial body passes between a larger body and the observer. So I guess you would call an eclipse one of those, right? The moon does not, of course, actually change direction, but it appears to do so from SDO's perspective based on the fact that spacecraft's orbit essentially catches up when passes the moon during the first transit. I think the SDO is the satellite that looks at the sun. Okay. It's become known that six more solar observatories, Australia, Chile, Spain, I should say it right, Australia, Chile, Spain, Hawaii, and has two there. There's two in Hawaii and Pennsylvania have been shut down. We note that all these solar space cams uh, down at the same time as Solar Observatory in New Mexico. Now, I have to admit that I went online and looked, and um, there is nothing about anything in Australia, Chile, Spain, Hawaii. The one in Hawaii they've denied. It's been open the whole time, they said. And Pennsylvania, I didn't look that one up, but when you're looking at four or five and they say they haven't shut down, but you know what? Sometimes we're fed this stuff, and So we have to look at both sides. You know, we have to look at the salt as well as the pepper. We have to take everything with a grain of salt, actually. You know, the government is not beyond lying to us, and many times they tell the truth. So this is why I'm coming with this. I want you to look at it, and you be the judge. You decide, okay? um, okay, it continues right here. We note that all these um, solar space cams done at the same time as the Solar Observatory in New Mexico. Okay, Axis 232D network dome camera located in Sydney, Australia. Webcams loaded at SOAR Observatory, the Southern Astrophysical Research Telescope located in Chile. BRT Tenerife Telescope, webcam located in Spain. Webcam located on Mauna Kea Observatory at the University of Hilo, Hawaii. Webcam from the Canada, France, Hawaii Telescope Observatory in Hawaii. Webcam at JAT Observatory in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania. But there's more. On September 11th, 2018, Maria G. Hill from Salem, Indiana, has photographed some extraordinary um, near the sun, what can be described as a large disk-shaped UFOs, as well as a huge fleet of smaller UFOs that accompanied the massive disk-shaped UFO. Gina wrote on her Facebook, September 11, 2018, 8:02 a.m., Salem, Indiana. This is what showed up in my camera after I took a picture of the sun in the eastern sky this morning. iPhone 8 with camera lens adapter. Boy, I've got to get one of those. A green circular door-like object is the center of the vortex worm slash wormhole, and the serpent snake at the top right above it by a circular disc. I'm sure this has a symbolic meaning with the snake and the disc. Pictures and video are on my bulletin, she says. Gina said, besides, in the two slides videos here and here, Gina talks about the massive UFO discs and the fleet of smaller UFOs. Now, here, just a little more, and then I want to go into something here. Okay, if the objects in this image are not lens flares, or objects reflecting in the lens of the camera, but massive motherships and a fleet of smaller UFOs, see images above, then could that be the reason for the sudden shutdown of the 7 solar observatories? Well, again, I haven't seen that the other ones were shut down, but if we look at this picture, okay, so we got the garbage can, that's what I'm going to call it. Okay, and then you got disc, 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 and disc. It looks like 1 and 2 over here also. Okay, now as we're getting closer to the end of days, um, it is my contention and a contention of some of my associates that there is going to be, well, there's a lot of things that are going to happen, but one of the things that is probably going to happen is there's going to be a fake rapture where New Agers are taken and where Christians are left behind, and that's going to cause a whole bunch of problems in the Christian community. But this is going to be a false rapture. I'm of the opinion that the real rapture is going to be in the middle of the tribulation period, but and I have my reasons for that. But my goal here is not to argue about that because that's a non-winnable argument. Okay. So anyway, um, now we're going to go to a New Age website. Okay. And you know, the New Age, yes, they are a bunch of crackpots in a lot of terms, a lot of sense. But at the same time, they uh, they do know the truth about a few things. And before we go there, look at this. Look at this picture over here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 looking discs there. And we don't know what this is in the background. That could be a mother disk or a mothership or whatever. Okay. Um, anyway, so let's go to this New Age website. Divine Frequency. There's your first hint that it's New Age. The New Age thinks that mankind is gonna uh, that we're off on a vibratory level and that we're going to change and become like superhuman, so to speak, almost godlike. And if you've read anything about the New Age, that's their aspiration to become godlike, small g, of course. Okay, so let's read here. Teresa Llaneros, I guess is the author. She says a recent surge in observatory closures has sparked international media interest and has caused an uproar across communities speculating as to the cause of this phenomena. And she's got a relating article here. Anyway, on September 7th, 2018, the Sunspot Observatory was temporarily evacuated and subsequently closed by the Association of Universities for Research in Astronomy due to security issues, and that's in quotation marks. The FBI was presented during the evacuation, or was present at the time of the evacuation, and no information was given to the sheriff about the reason for the incident. And there's a picture of the front gate of the observatory. Okay, you can see the crime scene tape or the caution tape in front of it. Nobody can enter. I believe that picture. Okay. Um, the FBI is refusing to tell us what's going on, Otero County Sheriff Benny House said. We've got people up there at Sunspot that requested us to be on standby while they evacuated. Nobody would really elaborate on any of the circumstances as to why the FBI were up there. What their purpose was, nobody will say. Initially, people began to speculate as to the reason that the government officials might seem threatened by the observatory having access to a closer look at the sun. One theory was that um, we were witnessing governmental officials handling a security risk that the people would obtain evidence of sun changes. That could be. Would this cause a public panic? Sure, it would. Uh, what was actually happening on the surface of the sun that the government potentially didn't want us to see? But that was just the very beginning of the media explosion. So then Fox News jumped into the fray, quoting various conspiracy theories involving long forgotten planets entering into the solar system. And if you've looked at the Nibiru stuff and everything, you know what I'm talking about. Um, Entering into the solar system and calls to prepare for alien invasion. The mainstream media news company attempted to make a spectacle of the surge of interest, even presenting journalist Tucker Carlson as Britain's real-life Fox Mulder on The X-Files. Okay. A popular ufologist and YouTube Secure Team 10 added his voice into the cacophony and gave his perspective on the real reason for the shutdown. He wondered if the Solar Observatory was taking pictures of the sun and encountered an object or a spaceship that the local authorities did not want released to the public. Secure Team 10 also mentioned that the post office nearby was shut down and wondered if this occurred so that no communications or potential evidence of footage of what occurred could be shipped off site. Okay. As the video count climbed to over hundreds of thousands of views, news of the observatory shutdown continued to spread across America. The Independent UK, which is a pretty good British newspaper, by the way, jumped into the conversation, stating the fact that Sunspot Observatory is only 200 kilometers from the site of the Roswell UFO crash has led only to more speculation. The publication even posed the question, could the sun actually be dying? Well, we look into Revelation, and it does do some weird stuff toward the end. Um, okay, what's the revelation to 9/11? Or excuse me, the relation to 9/11? I found it deeply interesting that these closures began occurring around the time of the anniversary of September 11th, a date where 9/11 truth memes, I can never say that word right, um, sailed far and wide across the internet, causing a drastic increase in individuals researching the conspiracy theories related to the tragedy that happened in 2001. Were these observatory closures orchestrated in part or in full as a public test to see who was paying attention and how the general populace would handle such an occurrence? Would the general public seeking conspiracy theory, more appropriately conspiracy fact, uh, content, stumble across the theories about sun changes and subsequent related to Earth's polar shift. Interesting, because I do believe that the Earth's polar axis has shifted. Okay, but that's not all. We have to bring up the solar geomagnetic storm in conjunction with the date September 11th. The Daily Mail, which is another British newspaper, added to the excitement, mentioning as of September 11th, officials confirmed the facilities were still closed and would not be reopened until they were given the green light. The publication presented a photo of the sun and described the solar storm that would interfere with the Earth's atmosphere on September 11th. By the way, it's the 17th and nothing happened. Um, One thing I must also mention is the laugh I had when reading the Daily Mail article in noticing a well-placed advertisement for an article claiming that conspiracy theorists are most likely narcissists. A nice little stab at anyone looking to stray from the brainwash, nothing to see here norm and consider the possibility and implications of these kind of truly curious events. But really, though, it is not beneficial to consider the cause of governmental officials acting as though they have something to hide while not providing any public explanation. All right, so let's celebrate. Let's calibrate. On September 11, 2018, we learned that a gigantic hole that opened up on the sun was causing geomagnetic storms. What happened next? Well, according to the World Tribune, not familiar with the World Tribune, but anyway, according to the World Tribune, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, issued a storm watch for a G2 level solar storm on September 11th. 6 more solar cameras were shut down all across the world in places including Australia, Spain, Chile, 2 in Hawaii, and 1 in Pennsylvania. Um, you know what? Again, that has not been substantiated as far as I can tell. Mainstream media outlet Newsweek went into the conspiracy theory attack frenzy, spouting, "So the little green men lurking behind the observatory's locked doors, or are they lurking behind the observatory's locked doors? Or perhaps officials are covering up a mega-charged super flare from the sun." Unfortunately for conspiracy theorists, these fantastical options are pretty unlikely. Newsweek reporter Catherine Hignett explored the popular theory of officials closing the sun cameras due to a massive solar flare. She surmised that it would be highly unlikely, as a super flare would be catastrophic to the Earth, and therefore shutting off cameras would be pointless. Yes. On September 11, 2018, Space.com dropped an article with the headline, "How NASA's mission to touch the sun may reveal clues about alien worlds." The image depicted a planet around the sun. I got news for them. There's 9 planets that go around the sun. Anyway, NASA's Parker Solar Probe was launched August of 2018 in order to learn more about our sun. It is a coincidence that this article, or excuse me, is it a coincidence that this article was dropped immediately following the observatory shutdown? The most interesting part of the article showed up right at the end and stated, "Perhaps most valuable will be the understanding the spacecraft can give us as to how the sun's dynamics are shaped by its magnetic field, which seems to guide much of what happens in and around a star." Okay, and then we have a quote here. "Somehow it's all related to the sun's magnetic field, even if we don't have the details. We know that much." And that was from Evgenia Shilodnik. I knew I murdered that name. Astrophysicist and planetary scientist, Arizona State University. The article was subsequently shared through Fox News a couple of days later. Interesting to note, the observatory shutdowns in conjunction with mainstream media sources pushing a round of news highlighting the probe launch heading for the sun. So what is actually happening? Macs are weird, folks. I'm doing this off a Mac, so um, Well, it seems been a push to cover up something happening on the sun. Even if that's not the case, the reason for the cover up is something completely different. It still remains very interesting that 7 observatories across the world would have been closed without explanation to the general public. Mainstream media sources are suddenly covering stories related to NASA's Parker solar probe right around the same time as the controversy was sparked, initiated right around 9/11 when the surge in conspiracy research occurs, and in conjunction with the solar flare, could this in part be a test for the public to see how we handle the information related to catastrophic events happening in our solar system related to the sun? Could this be a drip drip disclosure type situation in order to prepare the public for sun changes that are imminently on the horizon? And I just read that there's a day coming here in this month, I think, when the whole nation, all of our cell phones are going to receive a kind of a test of the emergency broadcast system. So let's see what happens with that. So anyway, drip drip disclosure just basically means that the officials with the answers seed the general populace information slowly on a need to know basis only so as not to disturb our fragile mental nature. By the way, I'm being sarcastic. Really? Uh, didn't get that. Thank you for telling me. Not. Could there actually be a solar flash on the horizon? Secret Space Program insider Corey Goode seems to think so. And she's quoted as saying, or he, I don't know if it's a he or she, Corey, I was told that it was not one solar event, but a series of events that led up to one large event. And again, that's Corey Goode, Secret Space Program insider, exopolitics.org. If you're not familiar with exopolitics and exopoliticians, they're people that are trying to prepare the governments of the world to accept a visitation and possibly an invasion of space entities. We know there are none, but um, to accept them as being friendly. And if you think that's true, then check out I think it was an old Outer Limits episode called "To Serve Man." Um, Very interesting. Good's testimony explains his conversations with people deep in the recesses of the secret space program. One of his contacts, named Sigmund, I'm assuming it's not Freud, he's been dead a number of years, to protect his identity, told Good that the solar event will occur between 2018 and 2024. The sun has been pulsing with cosmic energies and releasing them into our solar system at an increased rate, according to Good uh, and many other scientists and researchers. These energies actually affect our bodies, and there are spiritual implications. Okay, so here's we're going to get into the New Age stuff, folks. Okay, and we have a quote by a Paul Lenda from Shift.com who says solar flares are found to directly affect the mental and physical state of humans. In 2008, and 3 years later, we are seeing just how true the finding is. The sun has such incredible power that it's able to send solar flares shooting into the Earth's atmosphere and affecting its electromagnetic energy field, as well as affecting each person's electromagnetic energy field. I'm sorry, but my electromagnetic energy field's getting kind of old and tired, so I think I would have felt it. That was a fact. Especially if it would have pepped me up a little bit, that would have been nice. The increase in solar activity activates compressed jealousy, anger, and fears in our minds, no matter if we are conscious or unconscious of this process. Kind of reminds you of you know lycanthropy in the full moon, or lunacy in the full moon, which there may be some truth to, by the way. If it goes on, if people have not been working on healing those issues, the issues become stronger and magnified when there is a period of increased solar activity as there is now. We're living in a difficult period of our timeline, yet we should not allow ourselves to become sad about the state of everything because we can use this period to our advantage. Let's use this period of increased solar energy to create great opportunities for positive social transformation. The world desperately needs it. Spoken like a true New Age communist. Okay. Good calls humanity to put on. I'm sorry. I just read this stuff. It makes me laugh. Good calls on humanity to put on their karma in order, to put their karma in order, if it existed, as this shift will actually carry us into the next phase of consciousness evolution. Here we go. Sound familiar? Corey Good is not the only one who talks about an event that will occur to take us into the next phase of our collective spiritual journey. Oh, the New Age. You just gotta love their stuff. Researchers and historian Researcher and historian William Henry has been following up on solar flash investigations for years and presents a ton of information about the ending of the human age and the ascension into what's next. Now, this next part is the part that kind of ticks me off because it's not true. I've read the Bible several times and it's not there. Christian end time prophecy. This is a quote from William Henry. Looks like he wrote a work called Ascension Fire, the Solar Flash and Return of Christ. You notice they'll never say Jesus Christ. It's always Christ, and they're talking about the Christ consciousness. Anyway, Christian end time prophecy also describes an immensely powerful supernatural river of light coming from the sun that transforms us into light beings. You show me that in scripture, text, and verse, and I'll believe it. And you know what? You're not going to find it because it's not there. In fact, as I discussed in my 2012 book, The Judgment Day Device, this river of charged particles is the centerpiece of the Judgment Day scenario in which a transformative light shines on the earth and the ascension arc or throne of Christ is revealed in the sun. Well, I'm sorry, but judgment immediately following Judgment Day comes the destruction of heaven and earth and the creation of a new heaven and a new earth. So I don't know where these people are getting their information. It's certainly not from the Christian Bible. Okay, let's continue. That was the end of that quote. We must consider the possibility that the Bible, other historic texts, researchers, and insiders could be coming together to provide deeper insights into what actually happening on the planet. It all sounds very much so connected, don't you think? No, I don't think. I'm sorry. Um, you have nothing to do with the Bible. You might want to try to make people believe that, but sorry, it's not working here. Okay. All I know is, at some point, the mainstream media's attempts to discredit the collective research and to destroy the connect the dots mindset that has begun to infiltrate not just the far recesses of the internet, but the masses across the world is going to crumble. What will be left over? A large group, and I read that because it's large letters, a large group of people standing there with their arms wide, ready to receive those who have continually had the rug pulled out or pulled over their eyes. It's time to step into our personal power, continue to uncover the truth, and stand up for our personal sovereignty, and to keep asking questions when the control constructs try to hide information. It's funny how they talk about personal sovereignty, but we're all part of the universe. So we really, in one breath, they say we have sovereignty, in another breath, they're saying that no, we're all just a small part of the universe. And if you had sovereignty, then there would be no karma, there would be no reincarnation because you would go from being one sovereign to another, and that just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, solar flare, imminent or not, this phenomena has been a fantastic exercise in how the general populace opens up to the news and carries it into the arena of research and speculation. Those of us called conspiracy theorists will continue to smile. We will keep digging for answers and bringing them to the surface because seeking the truth is a process. And even though we don't have all the answers, that's because you're not looking in the right places. We have the spirit to use our collective gifts and talent to discover and conquer what comes next together as a collective. See, there's that Christ consciousness, universal consciousness. And there's another quote from Teresa Yannaros. All around us are pieces of the gigantic cosmic puzzle. Let's attune to its frequency. Sorry, I like my frequency. KJESUS or K Yahweh is my frequency. And I like that frequency, and I am not going with the New Age frequency. I am not going to change my good vibrations to their pseudo vibrations. Okay, anyway, all right. And then finally, I want to go into this debunking article. Here's why Sunspot Solar Observatory closed, and it's not aliens. But you're going to find that it doesn't give us the answers anyway, it says here, Aura officials, oops, excuse me, let me go down. Wow, let me go way down. Officials explain why they closed Sunspot Solar Observatory, and it wasn't aliens. Okay. After days of fighting rumors about alien visitations, the managers of the Sunspot Solar Observatory in New Mexico say they're reopening the facility and have shed more light into reasons for its 10-day security-related closure. The 71-year-old 9,200-foot elevation observatory on Sacramento Peak is America's National Center for Ground-Based Solar Physics. It's managed by the Association University for Research in Astronomy, or AURA, under the agreement with the National Science Foundation. It's also not far from Holloman Air Force Base, which is to the north, and White Sands Missile Range, which is to the west of there. That was just one reason for tongues to wag when AURA and the NSF decided on September 6 to evacuate the facility and surrounding homes due to security issue. The FBI was called to investigate, but local law enforcement officials complained that they were being kept in the dark about exactly what was going on. I've got ideas, but I don't want to put them out there, the Washington Post quoted Otero County Sheriff Benny House as saying. That's how bad press or rumors get started, and it'll cause paranoia, or I might satisfy everybody's mind, and I might be totally off base. A mystery in New Mexico naturally makes some folks think of aliens, in part due to the fame or infamy surrounding the 1947 Roswell UFO incident. In that case, the initial headlines about the flying saucer crash in the desert in Roswell sparked decades of speculation that they were never really totally quelled by the official explanations, which started with the weather balloon and ended up with crash test dummies and experiments to monitor nuclear tests. Similarly, Aura's explanation for this month's evacuation, issued today, sticks to strictly earthly affairs. And it says Aura has been cooperating with ongoing law enforcement investigation of criminal activity that occurred at Sacramento Peak. During this time, we became concerned that the suspect in the investigation potentially posed a threat to the safety of the local staff and residents. For this reason, Aura temporarily vacated the facility and ceased science activities at the location. The decision to vacate was based on a logical challenges associated with protecting personnel at such a remote location and the need for expeditious response to the potential threat. Aura determined that moving the small number of on-site staff and residents off the mountain was the most prudent and effective action to ensure their safety. In light of recent developments in the investigation, we have determined that there is no risk to staff. The Sunspot Solar Observatory is transitioning back to regular operations as of September 17th, given the significant amount of publicity and temporary closure has generated and a consequent expectation of an unusual number of visitors to the site. We are temporarily engaging in a security service while facility returns to normal working environment. Goes on to say that Aura's officials said that they recognize that the lack of information during the evacuation was concerning and frustrating for some. However, our desire to provide additional information had to be balanced against the risk. If it spread at times, the news would alert the suspect and impede the law enforcement investigation, Aura said. That was the risk we cannot take. The observatory staff of about 9 employees should be back to work this week. It shouldn't take long for nearby residents to be back in their homes, for researchers to be back at Dunn's Solar Telescope, and for tourists to be back at the Sunspot Visitors Center. But a full resolution of the mystery will have to wait until criminal charges are filed, assuming that the investigation bore fruit. And if the mystery hangs on, if the mystery hangs on with no criminal charges, with no further disclosures, don't be surprised if Agents Mulder and Scully tackle the Sunspot incident in a future X-Files episode. So, anyway, all right. So we were told that it's not what everybody thought it was, and we were told that it was a criminal investigation, but we weren't told what that criminal investigation was. And obviously, if they're moving back into the site, then they've caught the suspect. And so why aren't they telling us what it is? So anyway, I've learned to ask questions. I'm sorry, I'm trying, probably driving you crazy scrolling up and down with this. Um, so, so first of all, what did we learn? We learned that there's really no news about any other solar observatory shutting down. So that's kind of a dubious account that I'm not going to believe unless I read more about it. Second of all, the pictures that I saw, well, they could have been made up, but they could be real. Okay. I do know that see, we don't believe in aliens here. We believe that these beings that purport to be aliens are really fallen angels. They've been deceiving mankind right from the beginning and will until they are all cast into the lake of fire. Um, we we do believe that there is a strong delusion that has come upon the earth and will only get stronger, and that someday there is a possibility, a very strong possibility, that there will be craft that land all around the world that have beings that look like they're aliens, because that's what people are expecting these days. Um, and they will deceive many, and maybe even some of the elite, some of the people that call themselves devout Christians will be deceived by this. But anyway, for the elect's sake, the deception will not overtake the elect, those that are chosen by Yahweh from the foundation of the world. Anyway, so the fact that this is happening, and that by the way, CERN is going to fire up on the 23rd, 6 days from now. So every time CERN fires up, something weird happens around the world. So you can listen to our radio show, Opposing the Matrix. Excuse me, Opposing the Matrix. Um, and that is, you can find those radio shows on our website. Well, actually, the Delusion Resistance website, or Opposing the Matrix website. And just go to the top, and you can go to the archives. And we've had every show we've done from 2010 until just a couple of days ago. Uh, with that, I just wanted to say that, well, we're just going to have to wait and see what this is all about. Okay, we do know that Scripture says there are going to be sun changes. There's going to be a time when the moon's not going to, the sun's not going to show its light, and the moon's going to be and I mean blood red, not the orange red moon that we've seen in the last few years. And the fact that the moon's going to be red and the sun's not going to shine, well, that's kind of interesting right there anyway. But um, so uh, we can look at other things. We could look at the fact that, well, of course, if the one in New Mexico spotted something and Chile didn't and Australia didn't, well, Australia wouldn't because it would have been night in Australia, right? Um, but perhaps maybe the one in Pennsylvania was down already. Maybe it was just shut down for the day, or they were taking a break for a week or something. Same with Chile. Now in the summertime here in North America, the days are shorter in Chile, especially if it's where in Chile the observatory is, if it's farther down in Chile, the days would be real short. So it might have been an event that they couldn't see. Um, and Hawaii, well, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there anyway with that volcano going off, and that observatory is on the Big Island where the volcano is going off. So there's a good. y- Not everybody is watching everything at the same time. Okay. I know that I've been at events and I've seen things that other people or heard things that other people didn't hear. And although those things were said or done, and so not everybody sees everything. So yes, this is up in the air right now, but I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention and let's just wait a reasonable amount of time for something to come out on it. Okay. Um, this is a fairly recent event, and the truth will get out there somehow. Okay, so let's not jump to any conclusions one way or the other. Let's just kind of sit back and see what happens. Okay, and that having been said, I want to go ahead and close out this video and upload it to my YouTube channel, which is Yirmiyahu. And well, until I produce another video, everybody be blessed and just keep watching the news. And like I said, take everything with a grain of salt. Uh, don't stop researching, but take it with a grain of salt and compare it against other things. And above all, compare it with Scripture because if it's in Scripture, then you know it's right. So, that having been said, well, God bless and talk to you soon. Bye.